Welcome back, everyone, to the Abundance Tree Podcast. I'm your host, Janice, and I'm here with my co-host,
April Capri.
April Capri's in the building, y'all.
Hey,
How you doing?
hey. Happy
How
to
are you?
be here. Doing well,
Good.
doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good too. I'm happy to be here as well. So we actually have a neat um, guest tonight. So he's actually in the podcast business too. So you got to let us know about him.
Yeah, he took it to a whole nother level. So we have the founder of Poduty Live LLC, which is a groundbreaking podcast theater in Tarentum, PA, that merges digital content with live audience interaction. With over 20 years of experience in digital marketing and multimedia production, his passion for podcasting led him to create a unique venue that elevates the podcasting experience through cutting edge technology and live events. His innovative approach has redefined how podcasts are experienced, making him the leader in an evolving world of digital content and live event production. Today, he shares his journey and insights on integrating technology with live events for deeper audience engagement. Y'all, we have Jeff Revilla.
What's up, Jeff?
I think that's awesome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey,
Hello,
Jeff.
hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
We're doing good. We're
Doing
doing good.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
for
thank you.
coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're just telling our audience that we have a fellow podcaster, but you took it to a whole other level. So, but we wanted to kind of know the beginning of everything. So wherever you want to start in your journey, let us know about you.
Yeah, I've done some things. We have
Yeah.
I started podcasting like around 2011 and I had no idea what I was doing, just a total mess. And it was about 2015 where I really figured out like this community element to podcasting. I started a trivia game show on a service called Blab. And Blab was one of the first four in the box on screen. And it had this great social element where it would bring you 30 to 40 people within 5 minutes. They'd be watching your show, and I would do a game show based on that. And that service folded, and I was like, Well, that was so great that I could go live and I could have an audience of people that were engaged and interacting. You could do all kinds of like weird commands in Blab and make the screen shake or make it snow on the screen for everybody. And that community element sparked this whole idea of how do I bring people together? How does podcasting bring people together? And that trivia show evolved into actually a TV show. It runs on television locally here in Western Pennsylvania. But the concept is still three people from around the world. They call in and they battle it out over 3 rounds of trivia. That's kind of like my opening tagline. And while I love doing that, and I can do it virtually, like services like we use here with Zoom or StreamYard, there's just something about taking that show and doing it on a main stage or doing it in front of a live audience. You can't recreate that uh, virtually, but physically I can do that. And where this journey has led me is in the last 6 months, I've I took this dream I had for about 7 years, and I applied it to this physical space of a podcast theater. And your people are like podcast theater. That's a weird thing to say. Those words don't go together. Podcast or something I listen to my earbuds when I'm running in the morning or on my way to my morning commute to work. I'm listening to podcasts by myself. And now you're telling me this is something I can do with other people. Like I got to sit next to people. I got to be in a room and it really is this change of how we consume podcasts. And when you first do it, when you first perform, it's incredible. You get that rush when you come off a stage. I say you get juiced, right? You get off stage and you're like you want to run a million miles an hour, and the audience gets the same type of reaction because we don't live in a society where we're connecting it anymore. Where everyone's down, heads down on your phone. Even in my house, I two daughters and a wife. We're sitting on couches watching TV, texting each other things like it's so stupid. And this is a chance to break that mold, to break that social media addiction, to break that cell phone addiction, and create something with a community. And that's the aspect that I loved, 7 years when I started, or actually 9 years ago now in 2015. And that's what I'm trying to bring to this theater. And we'll talk a little bit more about it. But that's kind of the big full circle. How did I get here? How did I want to build this thing that's almost like a portal to the world? Like when you get on that stage, yes, I can present my show to the audience that's there with me in the theater, but you look around the picture behind me, there's cameras everywhere. This all can be live streamed, and people from around the world can actually join in on the live show. So it is like this portal. When you get on that stage, you can connect to somebody in Portland, Maine. You can connect to the audience member in front of you, and they can all interact with each other. And that's what we'll probably get into a little bit about, what is this stage thing, this portal thing you're talking about?
That's amazing. So the closest thing to for me to in the live podcast is just like being at an event, but the event would be like a mentorship program or something of that nature. It wouldn't be like in a theater where it's like an ongoing thing, or we've heard of the podcast studio where there's no audience and it's just the guests speaking. But this is so unique, and so like, what made you like? How did you come up with that concept? Like, it's kind of like, if you think about theater like acting and then putting it together with the podcast. I mean, were you like in theater or something at some point too, or?
No, I have a lot of like DIY, I grew up skateboarding, I grew up punk rock, a lot of counterculture stuff. And that kind of formed this, I can do anything. Like I really want to have from start to finish full control over my creativity, right? That's that DIY mentality, right? I want to produce it, I want to own it, I want to distribute it. So that's kind of like, my roots go all the way back to that. And what I wanted to do here is, and I just lost my train of thought. Um, where was I going with this? I had a really good point I was going to tie into this. Well, I'm sorry, can
About
you
the
repeat the
theater.
question one time?
Yeah, just about the theater. Like, I was wondering if you had like theater background because how you merged it together with a podcast. That's just so unique.
Yeah, not a theater background, the independent roots, but and so when I was growing up, there were, small clubs that would play local bands, and then there were a little bit bigger clubs that played some smaller touring acts that came around, and then you had giant theaters, you had arenas. And what you're seeing in podcasting right now is you're seeing a flood of celebrities, you're seeing a flood of comedians come into this space. They already have the attention of their fans and their, the people who already follow them, and they're commanding all this attention that independent podcasters were taking. Now they're sucking all that up, and they're getting all the listens. They're getting, there's only so much time in the day that somebody can listen to a podcast. If four celebrities come in with 4 million followers each, well, that's 16 million people that aren't listening to independent podcasts. So those people are starting to tour, and they're going to your theaters, your 600,000 seat theaters. They're going to your arenas, and they're filling them up. They're coming to town, they're selling tickets, and they're filling it up. For most of us, we're podcasting in our basements. I'm in my home office with a green screen behind me. You can kind of see I'm distorting the light right there. And there's nothing in between. So if we want to go from we're independent creators creating this content in our homes, our home offices, even a rental space. You mentioned podcast studios, right? What's the bridge to get us to that theater space? There's nothing in between. So that's really where I see this type of business, merging the gap between the home office, the home studio, and the theaters and the arenas. We need a middle point. So now that we're in Pittsburgh and I start running these shows, I start building up local podcast talent who can perform in front of a public audience. They can perform in front of a live stream audience. They're handling comments, or they're taking questions from the audience. That type of skill set, when a professional, a celebrity or a comedian comes to town, and they need opening acts, because they're going to need opening acts in the future. They can't just, sell an $80 ticket for a 60-minute show. That's not going to last forever. They're going to need somebody to do a half an hour. Even all the traveling musicians have, even though they'll do a 2-hour show, they'll still have a half an hour opening act, sometimes two half an hour opening acts to really deliver the value to that ticket. And right now, those big arena shows aren't doing it. They're just coming to town, they're doing a 60-minute show, and they're kicking everybody out after. That's it. So there's going to be this competition amongst them because they're going to want to deliver a better show than the last comedian that came to town to do their podcast live. So they want to do two, have two opening acts before them and really build it up. And what I want to be like, almost like a Hollywood of podcasters here in Pittsburgh, where this will be a source for people who are ready to make that transition. And that's how I even I forgot lost my train of thought on the initial question. That's really what this is. I wanted to bridge the two of those between the home office and the arena theater tours.
I think that's a beautiful, like you have like a really I like your vision. Like I can tell that you really thought this out and that you're passionate about it. And I like the feeling of inclusivity that it gives people to like, get involved and you're not just watching from behind the screen. You're actually part of the moment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people miss that, especially from being like COVID. Everybody and everything just was virtual. It went
Yeah.
from everybody, going out and, interacting to everything is virtual. So I like this, and I think especially for your community, I think it's a great resource for people to get out and have something to do, and also a nice platform for creatives to express themselves and have, be around like-minded people and supportive environment. And it looks really cool. Like I'm looking at it behind you. Like, can
I could
you
do
kind of
it.
explain what you got going on? It's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was kind of an accident that it turned out that looking so nice. These the chairs that you see are orange, and I had mentioned that while I've had this idea for years, I started piecing the things together. When I would find stuff, I would buy them. There was a Catholic school that was closing; they had to liquidate the church, and I made an offer. I got these chairs for $2 a piece, so
Wow.
that's a good deal. I have.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. So, one ticket sale, paid for my chairs. The stage I pieced together from a karate school. They would do the sensei, I guess, would do demonstrations up on the stage in front of the students. They weren't using it anymore. So that was a thing. We have a business up here called MacBid. I don't know if MacBid is around. I think there's some in Texas. It's like an Amazon liquidation auction business. So you go on and you make a bid and you can get like these chairs, these blue chairs you see behind me. They were $400 retail. I got for like $50. Same with like the table was $100 that I bought. I started piecing all these things together through auction. You don't want to see all my receipts. Um, but what happened is that I would look for years. I toured maybe 40, 50 commercial properties in the area, never could find one that like would really fit this because I really want to. If you look at the chairs, they're kind of C-shaped and they're wrapped around the stage, and there's never more than three chairs away from the stage, so you are immersed, right? You can't help but stare at that stage, and that's kind of like what when you listen to podcasts by yourself, you really get that feeling of it's just me and the host, like it's just me listening to that. I'm almost like a fly on the wall in the room with this host, and I wanted to recreate that. So I needed this right space. I needed the right way to lay out the room. And like I looked at 40, 50 buildings, and right around, I think it was the end of April this year, I walked into here and I was like, that it just clicked. There's red carpeting, the red ceiling. So it already had that theater vibe. The walls were white, and the landlord suggested, because I was gonna ask him, but I was like scared to ask him. Landlord's like, paint the walls black. It'll be so sick. Like it was the landlord's idea to paint the walls, and you can see some of this right here. There's like this wacky like wallpaper stuff. It kind of wraps around the back of the building too, and it all just really kind of worked. Like it wasn't intentional. I didn't. I had these orange chairs. I was like, what room is going to make orange chairs look nice? And this room really complements all the things that I was piecing together. It was just I walked in and it was the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that's really cool. So do you just do your podcast out of there? Do you like rent it out or how does it gonna work?
Yeah, I do shows. I do live trivia. I'm a big fan of like interactive stuff. So a
Okay.
lot of the shows that I do, the audience can participate on their phone. Kind of like if you remember
Oh.
like in the late 90s, the America's Funniest Videos with Bob Saget.
Yes.
And the audience would, at the end of the show, they'd pull out and they'd vote one, two, and three. I always
Yes.
loved that as a kid. Like, oh, it's so cool that you can vote like who's going to win the $10,000. And so on my shows, like the trivia is simple. Like you pick an answer and then there's a scoreboard and it's fun. You know, everybody goes, you can see the positions changing and the different scoring and that's fun. But when I train like how to do live podcasts, how to do podcasts, and in real time I'm doing feedback and I'm getting answers like what's your biggest challenge with podcasting? What's something you want to get out of this class? And so I'm doing all these things that are interactive. And I don't just do these, you know, for my shows. Um, you don't have to rent the place. That's one of the big things that people are shocked about. The business model that I'm doing right now is my goal is to get butts in the seats. I mentioned that this is a newer concept. People don't think about going to a place really to listen to, you know, these small independent podcasts. I'm doing something that's most people are probably telling me I'm crazy, but what I'm doing is there's no risk to creators or podcasters that come to use my space. There's no guarantee. They don't have to sell a certain amount of tickets. What I want them to do is come here and try it. I want them to get on stage, and in exchange, I'm going to build them a landing page that we can use to promote the event. I'm going to facilitate all the ticket sales. I can control everything from start to finish. So I can do the landing page, I can sell the tickets for them. I can help them produce the event and put together the event and adapt their show for the stage. I'm going to record it and give it back to them. I don't take any ownership over their production. I record it for them. If they use it, great. If they want to distribute it, if they want to tag me, hey, you know, great. You know, mention the theater, I'd be super happy. And I even have an area behind the counter for merchandise. I don't take a fee if you want to sell T-shirts and hats and buttons and stickers. That's for you. You're the creator. You take care of that. And what we do at the end of the night, we take all the ticket sales and we tally them up and we split it 50-50. So for most podcasters, they're going to walk away with 50 to $100. You know, they'll sell 20 tickets at $10. And if they walk away with the $100, that's more than most podcasters make in a several months, right? We can get into some of the sponsor math, but I'm really adamant about the value of a view. And when you look at host read ads, if we, you know, we'll take a little detour here if you don't mind. Host read ads, typically you can read an ad as a podcast, and the going rate is about $25 per 1,000 listeners. So if you have 1,000 downloads of your show, you read an ad, you're going to get about $25 per read. So that's great. That breaks down to like a penny, 2 cents
Right.
per listen is what that's value is. And so what I'm trying to do is let's think about this from a different perspective. Most podcasters, most podcasts don't even get 200 downloads. It's something like 80% of all podcasts get less than like I want to say it's 500. I'll get you. It's a low number. It's 500 downloads is a great median for 80% of podcasts. If you're getting more than 500 downloads on your podcast, you're probably in the you know the top 20% of podcasters. It's not as great as people think. So most people aren't getting to the 1,000 views period. But if you can build up something locally, if you can come to a theater like this, you can invite your friends, your family, you know, some of your local fans, just have them come in and hang out for the night and watch your show, watch what you do, watch what you're passionate about, watch you create something. You know, you could probably sell 15, 20 tickets fairly easily. And if you're going to sell them at $10 a piece, at $20, or 20 people for $10, that's $200. You'll split that, you know, at $100. You'll take home $100. That's $5 per listen, right? That's five. That's I don't even what's that? 50 times five. That's 250 times greater the value by doing something in person than sitting on your phone. Ugh. But if I'm face to face with you in the theater, the value of that view, just the value of that person being there, the math tells me that value is 250 times greater than the download of somebody who just downloads my podcast. So why don't we put more of our time and more of our effort into doing live things? If the value is that, what if 6 months from now, I'm not selling 20 tickets a show? What if I'm selling 100 tickets a show? That seems like a reasonable growth for 6 months. Now at 100 tickets at $10 a piece, I'm making $500 by the time you split that. That's for one night, for 1 hour of work, I'm making $500. So the value is there for most podcasters who aren't going to get to millions and millions of downloads. Most podcasters are like me, 2, 3, 4,000 downloads an episode. I'm never going to be, a Joe Rogan, a Whitney Cummings, and I'm not going to be one of those people. So why am I chasing this arbitrary number of $25 per thousand downloads when I could be making $10 per person, per in-person view? And then maybe I can sell 100 tickets or 500 tickets. And I think that's the future for most podcasters who aren't going to be a million download podcast.
Wow, that is powerful. That is powerful. A new way to look at things and new things to consider for y'all's podcasts and cities, right? So you mentioned that you kind of do like trivia to keep the audience engaged and stuff. And you also mentioned like opening for comedians. So do you help like if the podcast were to use your theater or podcast host, do you offer help with like what they're like if maybe they don't have an idea to help get the audience engaged or they don't have like their niche or they just do like the regular normal whatever they would do normally or is there something that you help them to get more engagement if you know what I'm saying like
Oh,
to help the views thing so they get more engagement with the audience since it is
oh
live.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I want them to experiment. I want them to try things. I want to get them a little bit out of their comfort zone because most people are just recording in their, studio. They're used to that. Now you're going to be on the stage and you're going to be in front of people, and not every element that you do in your home office, your home studio, is going to translate well to the stage. So I'll listen to a couple shows, I'll pull out a couple things, we'll start the mix and match, and we'll try different things for the stage. So it is a different production because you're not just recording audio, at your home. Now you're performing, right? Now it's a little bit, it's that next level of, yes, I'm comfortable on a microphone, but now I got to be comfortable on a microphone, and I want to see that front row smile a little bit. I want to make them smirk. I want to, like, see an elbow, you want to do things that keep the audience engaged and you keep the show moving forward. And that's the kind of things we focus on. The engagement's great when you see, the QR code pulls up, people start scanning it with their phones. And then one of the shows I do is called Rise and Outshine, and that show we bring on a podcast, and they do 10 minutes of their show. And while they're doing it, just like that moment I talked about America's Funniest Home Videos, the audience at home is they're scoring them on different criteria like audio quality. Are you keeping the show moving? Does the content match what you told us it was about? Because that's a problem. Sometimes people say this is what my show's about, and then you go to listen and it's 10 minutes of their morning commute or what they got at the grocery store. Like, that doesn't match what, you're not delivering on that promise. And then after that, the audience can type in any word, like a stream of conscious, any word that they associated while they were listening to the show, like inspirational, moving, uplifting. And all these words, we start to form a word cloud. And then we go over that during the show so they can see if there's like, how did they score? And then what was the audience thinking about when they were watching it? And you get some really great answers, and you get some really great insight. And that helps them formulate a better show as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Give you some feedback and yeah, like you said, so that they can take with them and make their show better. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
So
Do you have an app how people can connect or like a platform or is it through a website?
Yeah, everything's through the website. I'm a big proponent of the website is way easier than having to download an app and update the app and create an account. But the website's simple. It's 6 letters, Poduty, PODUTY.com. You can go there. We have the events. We have all that structure that I talked about of how the exchange works. Like if you want to come do a show, I tell you exactly what it is. I like to do handshake deals. I always keep my word. My word is my currency, right? If I tell you this is what it is, this is what it is. Because if I don't deliver on that, people know, and people talk about it. So I will, whatever I say, I will always honor. So I don't want to get into contracts. I'm sure at some point there'll be more. If if when more money enters into this, I'm sure there'll be lawyers, knocking on my door like you should have better structure and better deals. And um, but I don't want to do that yet. I like that handshake deal, DIY mentality. Let's just have some fun creating some things. And all that's on the website, Poduty.com. You can see connections to the other shows I produce. The trivia show is called Stuff I Never Knew, and Rise and Outshine, which is in a great relaunch right now. I'm bringing in Wise and Maria Daniels, and we're going to relaunch this show coming up in the next Tuesday. We're going to record 2 shows, so pretty excited about it.
Mhm. I can imagine you just taking this and running with it and having all kinds of different um niches like weight loss, religion, exercise, exercise. There's so many different things to get so many different honest audiences in the crowd there. It can be very powerful. Do you like help or coach other podcasters? Like, have you ever had anyone that want to open a podcast theater in their own city? Have you helped somebody yet, or is it
No, but
just
I'd
too
love
new right
to.
now?
Yeah, if somebody wants
Yeah.
to take the plunge, I'd love to. I'd love to. I always like talking shop. I'll tell you exactly what I do and how I do it. I'm not too worried. You have to. You can know how the recipe, but you have to also take the action too. So, if you're
Right.
really, really interested, I'll really, really, really sit and talk with you for hours, and I'll learn. I'll take stuff from that too. Like sometimes sharing. The best part about sharing is what you learn when I tell people this is what I'm using, this is how I do it, this is how I get the signal, here's how I avoid echo. And when I start telling people that and they react a certain way, I know there's something there. Or if they question a certain thing, I know there's something there and I can learn from that as well. So I have no problem, sharing all the secret sauce. I have no problem talking with people about it because chances are I'll learn something that'll propel me to the next level, and I'll still be ahead of them. So I'm never worried about sharing.
I got you. Because I know some people like to do like coaching programs and things of that nature in business. So I was just curious about that, but
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
I do learn the podcast in 3 weeks, where it's simple 30-minute instruction. I have my slides. I go through it. I give you assignments for the week, so you have 7 days to complete what I assign, and then I'll build on that lesson the second week, and I'll give them a new set of assignments. So by the end of the 3 weeks, you have a produced show ready to launch into the podcast directories.
That's awesome. I can tell you really studied, like you did some industry research and studied like the numbers, the logistics, the equipment, the little things that you don't think about. How long did it take you to really, well, you said you've been doing it since like 2011, right?
2011 was my first attempt at podcasting, and it was a little podcast I call with somebody who ended up going to be like the marketing director for Ghirardelli Chocolate. So she moved on, and like we kind of left me sitting here in Pittsburgh, and I had no clue what I was doing. I was terrified of recording my voice. I didn't want to be on camera. I didn't want people to hear me. I'm from Pittsburgh, so sometimes I run all my words together as one sentence. And we talk really fast, we talk really weird, we have weird accents, and we say weird things in Pittsburgh, and all that stuff was just in my head, and it prevented me from really getting out there and doing it. It took me another 4 years till 2015. The end of it was December 20th, 2015, when I did my trivia show for the first time, and I had the greatest time. I wish I never would have waited because all this stuff I was thinking about, I've realized I was the only one thinking about that. Like nobody was thinking about my voice or how I sound, and they have bills to pay. They're trying to get the kids to soccer practice. If they chose me for a half an hour to listen to escape or to laugh or to have fun, like that, my job is to make sure I deliver on that 30 minutes so that I'm not honoring them if they chose me and I'm hung up on how I sound. I'm doing them a disservice. Like I should be so flattered they downloaded a 30-minute episode of my silly trivia show from Pittsburgh, and they enjoyed it and they laughed and they listened to it with their family. That's the reward in those early days. Like I really loved. I think even that reward was that learning lesson too. Like I got to stop doing it because now I get so many compliments on my voice. I don't even know why. Like to me, I think I sound crazy. And I've had people tell me they listen to my show to fall asleep, which I don't know if that's a compliment. But she's like, no, it's like very soothing and very, she's like just a great voice to fall asleep to. And so I've learned to embrace that. Like people like listening to me. They like hearing my voice. They like hearing that underlying sarcasm in the back of my throat. And it's amazing. Like to me, I never would have expected that. And I waited all that year, all that time to do it. And now my saying is no one cares. Like if when people are hung up, like, I don't know, I don't want to record. I don't want to be on tape. I'm like, oh, what if people don't like it? Well, and I'm like, guess what? No one cares. No one cares how you sound. No one's thinking about you but you. Like you're the only one hung up, and you're stopping you from sharing whatever you want to share with the world because of you. It's not because of other people. I don't mean in a bad way, but they don't care. They don't care how you sound. They just want you to show up and be there for them and entertain them for in some capacity. So stop it. Stop it. No one cares.
That's awesome. I struggled with that for a while too, because I know I was petrified when I first started.
It's scary.
And
It
I,
is.
yeah, it is, yeah. And I have to say that you have the perfect podcast voice. I mean, it's just you
Thank you.
do, like, yeah, you really do. And
10 years ago, I never would have accepted that, but thank you. That means a lot to me now. I can take that and like, I really, to me, that like I'm getting the feels, right? It hits me. And I really do appreciate that because I really regret the time I wasted being hung up on it. And that was silly of me. Like, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Because and I know I had to overcome some fear. I don't know how April felt about it, but she helped me build my confidence in order to get things started. And we got it started a year ago and over a year ago now. But I think we kind of fell into our comfort zone. But it's like those limiting beliefs that could be so like detrimental, and you just got to get past all that and just go for it because you are going to resonate with somebody. And then even if it's one person, it doesn't matter. It's like, just do your thing, have fun, and get out there. So I really love that. It's so powerful.
I love
Yeah,
it
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And
We're
your first,
definitely our own worst critics.
yeah.
Yeah.
Guess what? Your first episode, it's going to be terrible. That's the other thing I tell me. Your 10th episode will be 10 times better than your first one, and your
Right.
100th will be 100 times better. You will learn so many little things, so many tricks of the trade.
Mhm.
You'll learn how to edit. You'll learn microphone distance. Like maybe I'm not talking all the way back here, or maybe I'm talking up here on the microphone. You'll learn all these techniques that will make you a better and better and better and better podcaster. So just start. It's the first one's going to be rough. It's not going to be great, but when you walk away after publishing that first one, there's such a feeling of elation. Like you're so like getting off a stage, right? You are juiced. You are so pumped when you hit send and publish on that first episode, and you see it in the directories. You see it in iTunes. You see it. I use Pocket Cast. When I see it refresh, I get a little notification. I love it. I still love it to this day.
I love watching some of the like major, like I watch YouTube a lot. So some of the major YouTubers, like if you go all the way down, like to, their first couple of videos, they're like in the bathroom with shower curtains
Yeah.
and they look completely different, and I'm just, I really admire the growth and just expansion. I look at their views and where they were then and where they are now, and it's so possible. And I always think like, what if they just, were self-conscious about the Mickey Mouse shower curtain in the back or, whatever, and they just
Yeah.
never did it.
Yeah.
So that's so true.
Yeah, get out there, just do it. Everybody started somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So tell me more about how you engage, like people calling in from the around the world. You mentioned they're able to actually call in the theater and like participate.
Yeah, we mentioned the different types of events you can do. If you wanted to be,
Okay.
if a lot of corporations have completely remote workforces now. So
Hmm.
if you wanted to come in The stage has HDMI capabilities. You can literally plug in your laptop. I can pull up your slides. I can put you next to your slides, and I can broadcast that out to the world. And people at home and in Florida or California, your remote employees can watch that. For the trivia show, very similar concept. I can be on stage, and the way we're going to do the couple shows we have coming up, I'm going to have two co-hosts with me, and they're not going to be on stage with me. So you'll have myself, my two co-hosts, and then the game over on the side. So you'll be watching the live stream, and the producer is actually going to be in another town over. So the person producing the virtual show won't even be at the studio. I'll be at the studio with two other virtual guests and the game that we're playing and hosting. And all these things are going to come together and form this live stream with people from all over the world. So that's the way we do the trivia show. It's the way we've done it for the last 160 episodes. Is
Wow.
it's and those a lot of those I'm before the theater. I'm in my home office right here, and I have three people from around the world. They could be. We've had people from all over the world, Hong Kong and Canada, and all through the state. I always wonder if I had somebody from every state so far, and we're putting this together, and we're bringing people together to have fun for 30 minutes and goof around and answer trivia questions. A lot of silly trivia questions, but that's what I love doing is producing something like that, producing something that's has multi layers to it. Because podcasting could just be an audio with discussion like we're having here, but I'm gonna say, oh, well, now what you're doing, you've taken video into this. Now I can see the video along with the audio, and then I'm like, well, else could we do? Well, we could have comments flying in and reactions from the audience. You can, if you like the question, you can tap, 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 like, and little like are flying up. The full interactivity. So now you're watching, now you're playing along on a second device, and you're answering questions in real time, or you're helping build a word tree, or so this next evolution, and you could be sitting in the theater, battling somebody from Colorado, like while you're watching the show. So all these
So
little
good.
things I really wanted this stage to connect out in different ways. So whether you wanted to share slides, whether you wanted to do an interview from the stage, we had a festival at the end of September, and one of the shows was on the stage, hosting his show, and his interview was in New York. So he
That's
was
so
doing
good.
yeah, he was. So you can do all these different types of connections. Uh,
Awesome. So,
right.
I don't want to interrupt you, but we're about a minute out. And so,
Uh-oh.
real quick, where can people find you again? So,
The best way, Poduty.com, Poduty.com. Look for me. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Facebook. Jeff Revilla, Revilla. But Poduty.com, you find the trivia show and the upcoming events.
awesome. Y'all
The
get connected with
broadcaster
Jeff.
came right out of you. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yes, you
awesome.
got that voice.
Dates and deets at
Yeah,
Poduty.com. That's Poduty.com.
Yes, sir.
awesome. Love it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on with us tonight, Jeff. It was
Oh, thank you so much for
amazing.
having me. This is great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.